right, thank you for staying with us. We have Mr. Yule Ojo. He's the CEO of Future, a Web3 productivity company, and we'll be discussing Web3. Mr. Yule, thank you for coming on the program today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, great. So we're going to go straight into the business of today's program. We've heard people talk about Web3, and it's almost becoming a normal palace now. But can you just tell us in play terms what Web3 is all about?
Okay, so really simple. Web3 is a move away from all that we know today about the internet. So Web3 is a concept that pushes the idea of decentralization, blockchain technologies, and token-based economy. So that's what Web3 is in a nutshell.
Okay, you said it's a movement from where?
It's a movement away from what we currently are, what we're currently familiar with, right? So Web3 pushes the concept of decentralization, a token-based economy, and basically blockchain technology.
Okay, so currently, are we running those technologies now? Because you said we're moving from, are we running those technologies now? Or is it a lower version of Web3? Or is there something this present technology, what's it called?
Okay, so to understand that, what we have to do is to understand where we're coming from, right? So when the internet just started, we started at what is called Web 1.0, and we moved into Web 2.0, and now we're in the Web 3.0 era. Now, Web 1.0 was very static, right? So you could just go on the internet and you see information that was given to you. Web 2.0 was an improvement, right? So what happened with Web 2.0 was it became dynamic, and you could interact with the websites. You could put in something and the websites shows something back to your website or apps in this case, right? So it became dynamic, and it was powered by big corporations. It's also called the social era, and that's where you have the era of Facebook, Twitter, which we currently are in. And Web3 is a move away from that. It removes power from the hands of a few giants and decentralizes it. That means it distributes power to all internet users, and you don't have to depend on just a select few companies to make really big decisions for you.
Okay, if we have these running and it's okay for us, why the movement to Web3?
Okay, so it's important that we move to Web3, and I think this is the point where I get to talk about the advantages of Web3, right? So Web 2.0, from the tech aspect of it, is limited because we have big companies running on servers, and these servers could go offline anytime. Web 3.0 is a move away from that. It's a serverless technology depending on blockchain. So the back end of it is handled by thousands of computer nodes connected, right? So there is zero chance of having your website or your service go offline, right? So that's like from the tech angle of it, but there are several advantages from other angle of it as well. And you talk about permissionless technology. In this concept of permissionless technology refers to, okay, let me give you a simple example. If you're on Twitter or you're on Facebook, I mean, the moderators or the admins could kick you out of a group or out of the entire Facebook as a whole because you broke their rule. Now, permissionless technology, which is what Web3 is pushing, means there is no central authority to tell you what you're doing is wrong or what you're doing is right. So it takes power from everybody else and it puts it in your hands or in the hands of every internet user. Web3 also, as an advantage, pushes the idea of not having a middleman in any transaction. And that's also why you can see Web3 is blowing up in the area of cross-border remittance. You can transfer money across the world in a few seconds, and you really don't need a bank or a central authority to approve such transactions. So those are just some of the few advantages.
But with what you just said, and you're talking about taking control from maybe big corporations, from organizations to the hands of the internet users, does not pose a great threat to maybe compromise of data and security and every other thing?
Okay, so yes, you're right. There is a bit of threat in that, but what you have to do is to put the threat and the advantages side by side, and then you evaluate and say which one brings the greater advantage for us. So there is also that threat, especially. Remember when I started talking about Web3 initially, I mentioned that it pushes token-based economies. And also I said it's permissionless, so you can do pretty much anything. And that is also what has led to DeFi platforms, decentralized platforms, where people are able to run lots of programs and dApps, including investment schemes, which has turned out to really not be so good because of the lack of a central authority. So we have a lot of people losing money. So yes, there is that risk there, but also I'm going to speak to the advantages again. And I think that's where blockchain technology comes into play. We're still in the early stages of blockchain technology, and we're still trying to understand what it is or what it actually will do or what it's capable of. But then it's important to understand that blockchain technology pushes the ideology that once something is committed to the block and it's approved, it cannot be changed. It's immutable, right? And this sort of security is what we need, especially when it comes to finances, when it comes to our privacy, and when it comes to doing business, really. And that's one of the major advantages that Web3 offers.
Okay, great. So from what you just said, technology, of course, is not all bad, but whoever uses determines how good or how bad it is. Are there opportunities for... will I say not just the young ones now, for everybody? What are the opportunities that lies within the Web3?
Okay, so that's a fantastic question. Thank you for that. There's a lot of opportunities in Web3 at the moment. And I should mention that the skills that has enabled you to earn and make a living in Web2 era, they are also vital in the Web3 era. And this is because there are a lot of Web3 companies that need to be able to express their idea in tangible form. And then that means you're going to need web developers, right? And you're going to need technical writers, because a lot of the Web3 companies are focused on the technology itself and they forget the usability for everybody else. So you need technical writers who are going to translate code into something that everyday users can use. You also need people who will be able to manage communities. So we need project managers, we need community managers, we need copywriters here, we need graphics designers, we need UI, UX people. So all of the skills that has enabled you in Web 2.0 era are needed, and I would say at a grander scale when it comes to Web 3. So those are some of the opportunities that are needed. And I'm paying more attention to soft skills at the moment, even though Web 3, as we know, it is transcending just soft skills into more hard and technical skills now in these days. But then I'm paying more attention to soft skills.
But from what you just listed now, it looks like you have more people in the tech. Looks like they're going to benefit more. Is that so? Because you had most of the soft skills or whatever what you mentioned, you just have more people tech related. Is it that the normal person that's not into tech cannot benefit from this technology?
So the thing right now is Web3, as we know it, like I said, is still evolving, and we're not entirely sure all of the possibilities. Right now, the way we're able to express how Web3 relates to everybody is through soft skills and digital platforms. So while there are companies that are taking advantage and trying to build stuff around expressing Web3 physically and things we can touch and feel and use every day, we're not quite there yet. But then there are people that are making progress in that area. I've referred to Walkie. I think Walkie, yeah, that's the name of the company in the US. So when you purchase their shoe, it's a real life shoe, by the way, and you move from one place to the other, it connects to your fitness watch, and you start earning tokens as you engage in fitness activities. You can convert these tokens into fiat and you cash out like anytime. So that's an advantage of Web3 in the health sector, and not just digital as we need. But then it is very pervasive in the digital sector. And while people are working on the physical aspect of it, we're not quite there yet.
Okay. So relatively, it's a new technology that is still evolving. So how can one get started if you want to get into it?
Okay, so the easiest way for you to get started in Web3 is to, number one, pick up skills if you do not already have such skills. If you do have skills in the areas that I've mentioned above or earlier, including copywriting, web design, UI, UX, graphics design, and all those things, you just need to be able to express these skills in Web3 or for Web3 startups, because there are a lot of companies that are springing up in this space, and they need your skills to be able to reach the market, reach the number of persons that they are targeting. So it's a matter of, number one, picking up skills, number two, expressing soft skills for companies that need them.
Okay, great. So what would be your final word for whoever? What's going to be our takeaway from you tonight? Okay, so what I'm going to say is we're still early to Web3. Everyone is still trying to figure it out. We don't quite know how to do or the scale to which it can really impact our lives in the future. So if you're thinking about stepping into Web3, you're still early. Start now. Okay, you're still early. Start now. That's the final word from Mr. Yule Ojo, the CEO of Future, a Web3 productivity company. Thank you, Mr. Yule, for your time. Thank you for having me.